that you are the quintessential embodiment of the best leadership in the faith community of the United States of America, anywhere to be found south of heaven, north of hell.
All right, a very historic press conference that the church and the NAACP put out this afternoon. Today is June 14th, 2021. This was astounding and just overwhelmingly gratifying to see the church operate in the way that it does and what it has accomplished here with the NAACP. This is the way forward. We've spoken a lot here, especially with the critical race theory series on this podcast, that there are two different ways to do this. One is through critical race theory, right? Something that is a pernicious ideology, and another that is done through Christ-like love and putting your arms around others. And that is what has occurred here. This is not done out of white guilt or anything else, which you're about to hear here. It is done out of a Christ-like attitude. And it's fabulous. It is absolutely fabulous and just so confirming to see this. It brought tears to my eyes to see how these two groups are working together. I want to go over a couple of these things. We've talked a lot about language. I'd like you to notice the language from both the church and the NAACP on how they approach this with each other. It's a far, far cry from what you hear from critical race theorists. This is a different type of relationship. This is a relationship of becoming one. This is a relationship of brotherly and sisterly love. And it's so much different than anything from academia's critical race theory. It's so much different. There were 3 initiatives that were put out here, joint initiatives that the church talked about. President Nelson got up, and I'll put the link down inside the description here for this, but President Nelson got up in the press conference, and he said this, looking at, what is in common? What do we have in common? That's what you try to do. Critical race theory does the exact opposite. It segregates, creating ites, right? This is about working together. President Nelson said they believe, being the NAACP, in the fatherhood of God, in the brotherhood of man, and they believe in Jesus Christ, who said, "Thou shalt love God with all thy heart and thy neighbor as thyself." That's what we've been saying. It's got to be under that umbrella. That is the way forward to gather Israel. And yes, that includes our African American and all Black and African descent brothers and sisters, because everybody that becomes a part of the church is a part of Israel. That is gathering Israel. And this is so inspired. It's, as we've seen this theme of gathering Israel from President Nelson, this is a great part of it. It's an incredible, wonderful part of gathering Israel. President Nelson then goes on to renew his call to abandon prejudice, promote civility, kindness, and mutual respect. We seek to build bridges of cooperation, he says, instead of walls of segregation. That is critical race theory, right? Segregation. So the language here is so much different than what we've been hearing in this critical race theory series. He went through 3 initiatives that the church is going to be embarking on here at least over the next 3 years. The first one is scholarships. It's education scholarships overseen by the United Negro College Fund, $1 million a year for the next 3 years, right? Supporting our African American brothers and sisters. It's a great thing to do. Great thing to do. It's not reparations. It's not justice. It's Christ-like efforts, right? Number 2, a one-time donation of $250,000 to create an Amos C. Brown Student Fellowship. Now, this is important. And as I've gone through this series, I'm getting hit from the left and I'm getting hit from the right on several different things. There's a way to maneuver through all of this. This is what President Nelson is leading us through. The Amos C. Brown Student Fellowship is $250,000, a one-time donation that helps African-American kids go back to Ghana and West Africa to find out more about their roots there, their heritage in Africa. What a wonderful experience, right? That's going to provide the funds for them to do this. Now, Amos C. Brown is an activist, right? He was brought up in the civil rights era. He was close to Martin Luther King. He's one of the heads he's a head of a chapter of the NAACP in San Francisco. And for those of you that are on the right that listen to this podcast, and we've got a very broad spectrum, especially depending on what the topic is, across the political spectrum. But for those of you that are on the right that are concerned about the church getting involved with those that are more on the left, you need to hold back a little bit, I think. I'm asking you to, right? Hold back a little bit and understand what is being accomplished here, okay? Amos Brown was a supporter of LGBT rights. He supports the legalization of marijuana. He's called for reparations to be paid to black people. He's done a number of these different things. That's okay. It's okay. It doesn't mean that the church is going into this and saying, I support all of these things. We don't want to be that way. We can't be politically adjacent to everything, right? This is good. This is very, very good. And you're going to feel, I hope you feel this way, once you hear the things that this guy said about President Nelson and about the church. They're incredible. It's unbelievable. This is a historic press conference. The third initiative was humanitarian efforts that will help to teach the important principles of what? Of self-reliance. Self-reliance. So there's a program being put in place that is helping for self-reliance. This is, again, the opposite of just a financial transaction. That is not what this is. This is help to help, right? Help me, help you. $2 million per year for the next 3 years. These are all initiatives that are completely opposite of critical race theory. Now, after President Nelson sat down, the president and CEO of the NAACP, Derrick Johnson, got up, and here's just a few quotes. And again, listen to the language on this coming together, right? He says, "For me, it is driven by those two great commandments. Love thy God with all thy might and thy heart, and love thy neighbor as oneself." That is key to everything here. He also said that looking out across America, that he sees that other communities have also suffered, including the heritage of the Latter-day Saints, the early Latter-day Saints. New York, Ohio, Missouri, Nauvoo, and so on, right? Utah as well. So there's some common ground there a little bit. You know, not to the same level, obviously, but there's a little bit of common ground there. And then he kept talking about this idea of, look, when you look at somebody else, you say, I can see the Christ in you. I can see the Christ in you. That was something he really wanted to bring up. This is how they are being brought together. It is Christ at the center. He says, God created all of us in his image. It's one central point to bring all of us together. It is the opposite of intersectionality. It is the opposite of breaking everybody off. It's a Zion-type movement of bringing together African Americans and members of the church. Then after Derrick Johnson had sat down, President Lomax stood up, who is the president of the United Negro College Fund, UNCF. And he said the following. Again, listen to the language to this. We will begin a new initiative that is a shared initiative. You don't stay over here, you don't stay over there. It's a shared initiative. And listen to this. Building community, exercising leadership. And he says, I want to commit that UNCF, the United Negro College Fund, will engage in this work, not as a financial transaction, but as a transformational partnership. This is big. This is not a donation. This is a much, much bigger initiative and program, agreement, partnership that the church and the NAACP have arrived at. And then lastly, we get to Amos C. Brown. This is the man that the scholarship or fellowship is named after. He's 80 years old now. And he had some amazing things to say. I'm going to quote quite a bit from him, and I hope you'll listen to this. To President Nelson, my brother from another mother. Ladies and gentlemen, I am humbled and very much, believe it or not, speechless. But if I could put this occasion in words, I would say, all that has been done here today and what has been established as an honor to me of naming the Amos C. Brown Scholar, who will go to scholars who will go to Ghana, West Africa, and have that once-in-a-lifetime experience of witnessing that horrible, inhumane slave system, but not to become bitter over it, but to become agents of betterment. I like him. When you have charity, when you have relational covenant, you have to reach out from both sides. And that is humbling for both sides. I appreciate his righteous words there. To become agents of betterment so that we will be able to make real amends for that tragic, horrible Atlantic slave trade. And then he goes on. He says, I am peacock proud, hyena happy, and elephant elated. Why? Because President Nelson, you and I locked arms in Detroit 2 years ago. And I want to acknowledge in my remarks that you are the quintessential embodiment of the best leadership in the faith community of the United States of America. Anywhere to be found south of heaven and north of hell. And you are the reincarnation of one Joseph Smith, who back in April 6th, 1830, had a vision of a spiritual community. And that vision was not egocentric, self-centered, or nationalistic. That vision was about love. That's the key. It can be done. That vision was about love for all humankind. But many in America do not know that Joseph Smith was a leader in the abolishment movement. And Joseph Smith ran for the presidency for the United States of America in 1844. And his major plank in his platform was the abolition of slavery by 1850. He actually predated Abraham Lincoln in his efforts. It's amazing what can happen when two sides reach out and stretch, right? And have that relational covenant, that they can both offer charity. Who would have ever thought 5 years ago that this is something that would be possible? That we would be hearing this from both sides toward one another. This is a very special time. A very special time, and I think a very, very significant step in moving forward and gathering Israel. Lastly, from Amos C. Brown, and this is just incredible. It is late in the evening in these United States of America. Our democratic republic is under siege. But this very partnership of the NAACP and the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints will be the saving factor to redeem the soul of the United States of America, so that we will indeed become one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. That is our goal. That is our focus. And I thank God that God enabled me at the age of 80 to stand here for this historic moment to say to America, look at the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Look at the NAACP. For if you take what they use of love, civility, justice, and peace, you won't lose. I just want to say, as I've been going through this series of critical race theory, CRT, it is a counterfeit movement. It is not love. It is not reaching out and helping each other. There might be a few little pieces of that in there, but it just isn't. It's not. What the church is doing right now, right here, is the alternative to the idea of critical race theory. This is done out of love. This is done out of putting your arms around each other. This is done out of the two great commandments. This is about being indivisible. This is about being one, everybody joining to one place. That is Zion. And that's what this is all about. Thanks for listening.